it's funny because we live in this bizarro world where, like, they just got a quarterback, a question they haven't had an answer at for a position they haven't had an answer for in 30 years or whatever it is, and they landed one, and I think the angst me so there remain, like, these Drake May psychos, largely just, like, nameless, faceless avatars on Twitter, and if that's how you choose to spend your time and you're not a bot, like, God bless you. I don't know what to tell you. I think you should get a hobby, but whatever, we'll see. Also, Drake May, we talk about situations matter with these rookie quarterbacks. I think Caleb at number 1 is going to a really good situation. If you look at all the talent the Bears have put together, they had Rome Odunze last night, Keenan Allen, obviously DJ Moore's there. They added DeAndre Swift. I think they have a pretty good offensive line. I think sometimes we all get way too caught up in the skill positions and not enough in the O line, but that's like a larger discussion for the state of football fandom. I think Washington's situation for Caleb is pretty good, or for Jaden rather, is pretty good. Jaden and Jahan Dotson are friends. They like did an Instagram live together last night. Jaden talked about Terry. You you gotta wonder the run game with Eckler and obviously Brian Robinson. They added Ertz, who's a veteran. I find it hard to believe there's not receiver and more receiver and tight end help coming. But now, like the biggest angst of Commanders fans, perhaps understandably, I would wait till you get till the end of the weekend to really angst it up. But there is this hole at left tackle. A lot of people last night thought that would be addressed. I think when you look at how that draft fell, um, I think there was one pick that kind of closed the door on the Commanders trading back up. I was told by a few people around the league that they were working pretty hard, and I buy it because the conversation I had, say it was like 6:30 ish, was that they were talking with Minnesota about 23, and they were talking with Buffalo about 28, and both those teams ended up trading out. So clearly, they both those teams were working on those moves. The Bills' decision to not only trade out of their spot, but to trade with the Chiefs to allow the Chiefs to get the fastest 40 time ever on record at the combine, to combine that dude with Patrick Mahomes when that is your chief rival that's going to keep you out of Super Bowls. Okay, man. Good luck. You know what the Bills could have used? A receiver that could run past everybody for Josh Allen. Eh, Like, there was a period of time where the Niners and the Cowboys were going back and forth in the early 90s after the Skins era of dominance kind of ended abruptly. Joe Gibbs retired, and then the Cowboys team was loaded and the Niners were loaded. And I think those two teams won like 5 Super Bowls in a row between the two of them. Um, and like, I can't imagine in that era they would have traded with one another. I just don't know what the Bills were thinking in that moment. Maybe they wanted to get more picks, but I think they have a ton of picks. It was just bizarre. Outside of Washington didn't trade up, I don't know how you have a single complaint. I think Washington, when Green Bay took Jordan Morgan out of Arizona at 25, that was a player that a lot of folks were hoping could be there at 36. I had heard kind of leading up to this thing that the tackle market was going to be so hot and heavy. Um, my guess is they must not have liked Tyler Guyton that much. He was the big tackle prospect out of Oklahoma. And then if you're obsessed with the tackle position above all else and that they've got to address it, you know, you can still get, they have 36 and 40. So their first pick, their third overall tonight when we get going. Um, they're the guy Roger Rosengarten, who they clearly at least have interest in. This big kid, Sua Matea from BYU, who I think folks might be a little more split upon than we realize. Patrick Paul is Chris Paul's brother, that big kid out of Houston. I don't know that any of these dudes are day one starters for you. Like ESPN lists Blake Fisher as the number one tackle available. But I think if you're Peters, keep this in mind. Last year, the plan was not, or 2 years ago, going into the draft, it was Morgan Moses. And then Leno got released. The Bears drafted somebody. So then Leno gets released. Then Morgan gets released. They sign Leno. Like, there's going to be more movement over the next 2-3 weeks as we get into May. And it's entirely possible if they don't address specifically left tackle. Say they wait a little bit and they take a guy I like, Kieran Amagaje from Yale. That might not be your left tackle. Maybe they have to lean on Cornelius Lucas, at least to start the season. Rosengarten's definitely a name to watch. But I think you got to – they made their first pick, and they didn't trade back up, but clearly the guys they like they couldn't get to. The thing that is apparent to me is as there was the run on wideouts, you had 6 quarterbacks go in the top 12 and then 9 offensive linemen, I believe. There's going to be some opportunities, particularly at 36, where you can get a player that you probably didn't think you could get. Like, what if Cooper DeJean? I don't know if it's DeJean or DeJean. Just going to be honest about that. What do you think, Landfill? DE Big J EAN.
DeJean.
Jeffrey?
Definitely DeJean.
Like the mustard?
Or Deshaun with some pizzazz. DeJean.
Okay. Deshaun with some pizzazz. That's what we're going with. That dude's a freak athlete who can help you on the back end. They had the worst passing defense in the NFL last year. I know that they drafted Forbes, but that was the old guys. These guys are starting fresh. They got to build everything. The fact that Kool-Aid, McKinstry from Bama, and Cooper DeJean are sitting there, you'd think one of those two gets to 36. If you want help at receiver, Keon Coleman is there, who's a big kid out of Florida State with real ability to go up and get it. Adonai Mitchell's a guy played at Texas who is a pretty good route runner with elite deep. I think he ran a 4.34. Tracks a deep ball well. Like, both those guys, there was plenty of talk of them going first round. What about this kid, Ladd McConkey? It looks just like, to me, like the next maybe Welker or something. He's 6 foot. He's 6 foot, $180, but runs awesome routes, really good at the line of scrimmage. And his 40 was a lot faster than I think people expected. It was 4.39. Maybe helps you in the return game too. There's a lot of these dudes that I think you weren't expecting. A guy I've liked throughout this process is Junior Colson, who's a linebacker. I don't think he makes a lot of sense for them, but I bet he goes. TJ Tampa is a corner that I actually mocked to them at 40. I guess I got a break, Jeff. Is that what you're telling me? I forgot about the breaks. Beat the brakes off him. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to just tell you the truth, folks. If you don't want to talk NFL and the draft all day, you should probably find another radio program, because all we're going to do is talk NFL and the draft